Welcome to Histology. Welcome to the Wisdom of the Bible channel. Have you ever heard of buildings so grand they seem beyond reason? Monuments raised with unimaginable wealth that defy time, collapse mysteriously, or hide puzzles that science still struggles to explain? The Bible highlights some of the most extraordinary constructions ever known, each containing a secret, a forgotten message, or a truth few dare to explore. In this video, you'll embark on a fascinating journey through 5 astounding biblical structures and discover the mysteries they hold. But stay alert, the last one on the list will challenge everything you thought you knew and may leave you speechless. Are you ready to explore the mysteries that unite faith, history, and archaeology? Then get ready, because what comes next may change your perspective on the past and the future. Let's get started. The greatest constructions of the Bible. Have you ever imagined building a massive ship with no modern machines, no cranes, no electric saws, just lumber, hardened hands, and unwavering faith? That's precisely what Noah did. And centuries later, his narrative still amazes scientists, archaeologists, and anyone who believes in the extraordinary. The Bible tells us that during an age of severe corruption and turmoil on earth, God chose this man for an impossible task: to construct a huge refuge to save his family and samples of every animal from a worldwide flood. Now visualize this moment. Noah is given a sacred command. He starts sawing wood, shaping joints, and planning sections. The labor was exhausting. Years of building beneath a blazing sun, enduring scorn, uncertainty, and the immense duty of safeguarding God's living creatures. However, the ark was far more than an ordinary vessel. Its size was colossal, measuring roughly 450 feet in length, 75 feet in width, and 45 feet in height. Picture something akin to a modern cargo ship, assembled from gopher wood and sealed with pitch to endure the waters. Now consider, how did Noah achieve this without advanced equipment? How did he arrange the creatures inside the ark? And most crucially, was there truly a flood that covered mountains? Myth or fact, science continues to search for answers. Experts of earth sciences and history have uncovered indications of a huge deluge in Mesopotamia. Research suggests that millennia in the past, a devastating surge of water could have drowned vast territories, sparking the narrative of a worldwide flood. Even more intriguing are the reported finds of the ark's remains. In 1959, a Turkish airman soared above Mount Ararat and noticed a shape that looked like a ship's hull. Ever since, teams of explorers have worked to verify if those remains are really Noah's Ark. Some reported unearthing fossilized timber and geological features that match a giant vessel, yet the dilemma persists. Could it truly be Noah's Ark? The scientific community is still split. Meanwhile, belief stands firm. Imagine standing before a city encircled by towering, impenetrable walls. This stronghold was constructed to repel any adversary, shielding its citizens from external attacks. Now envision the unthinkable. These defenses crumble without siege engines, blasts, or armed forces. They collapse from a force far more mysterious, the resonance of trumpets and the roar of faith. This is the saga of Jericho, perhaps one of the planet's earliest cities, and the site of one of the Bible's most puzzling and debated moments. So remarkable was this event that it continues to baffle logic and captivate scholars. Yet was this truly historical? And crucially, what does modern study reveal about such a grand downfall? The scriptures describe Jericho as a stronghold encircled by formidable walls that made any assault appear futile. To the Israelites, exhausted from 4 decades in the wilderness, conquering it must have felt impossible. However, God had a strategy. Yet was this truly historical? And crucially, what does modern study reveal about such a grand downfall? The scriptures describe Jericho as a stronghold encircled by formidable walls that made any assault appear futile. To the Israelites, exhausted from 4 decades in the wilderness, conquering it must have felt impossible. However, God had a strategy. No assaults, no armaments, only a quiet procession, as though anticipating a hidden command. Then, on the 7th day, everything changed. They made 7 circuits around the city, with horns blaring above, followed by a collective cry from the multitude. Suddenly, in an unexplainable twist, the walls gave way. No siege equipment did this. not by any obvious earthquake, only through sound. Pause to consider, could that truly happen? How might a straightforward parade and trumpet blasts demolish such formidable barriers? Throughout the last century, researchers initiated detailed digs at Jericho to seek explanations. That's when the plot grew even more intriguing. In the 1950s, Kathleen Kenyon, a British archaeologist, led an in-depth survey in the area and made a stunning revelation. They did find remnants of a substantial wall that appeared to have crumbled in an instant. Yet the most startling detail was the direction of the collapse. Evidence pointed to the walls toppling from within outward. This was entirely out of the ordinary. Normally, during a siege, walls are broken from the exterior, but in Jericho, it looked like the disintegration started on the inside. This lines up with the biblical narrative. The walls didn't fall by human might, but by a far higher force. Still, is there a natural cause that might clarify what happened? A few academics propose that a quake was the actual trigger for the downfall. Since Jericho sits on a tectonic break, tremors are fairly usual there. This makes some sense, if not for one essential point. How would Joshua and his people foresee the precise timing of a quake? Furthermore, how could it strike precisely when horns and shouts erupted? If a tremor caused the collapse, then we'd be facing an uncanny alignment of events. Is this another moment where faith and science may overlap? One fact remains: Jericho's tale continues to be among the biggest enigmas in biblical archaeology. And be prepared, because our next building is even more perplexing and demanding. One fact remains: Jericho's tale continues to be among the biggest enigmas in biblical archaeology. And be prepared, because our next building is even more perplexing and demanding. It was a project cloaked in awe, sanctity, and authority. But how did they manage to build such a monumental wonder? What insights has excavation uncovered about its reality? And most significantly, what deeper meaning does it hold? The tale starts with David, Israel's renowned king. His soul was ablaze with the wish to raise a temple for the Lord, yet that task was destined for his heir, Solomon, remembered as the wisest monarch ever. The spot selected was no accident. Mount Moriah, a site brimming with spiritual significance, was where Abraham nearly offered up Isaac, a realm steeped in divine wonders. Yet erecting the temple was more than a test of architecture. It was an immense assignment, designed so that every element held a sacred function. The stones were expertly shaped, trimmed, and finished well away from the actual site. One astounding fact is that no hammering or metallic clamor was heard in the area, following God's decree. This sparks a fascinating query. How could they shift these massive stones, align them flawlessly, and erect a towering structure without clattering tools on site? They brought in the cedars of Lebanon, regarded as the finest wood of the period, from distant territories. Its holy fragrance filled the atmosphere, not just for beauty, but as an emblem of kingship and union with the divine. Then we encounter the most remarkable aspect. The entire interior of the sanctuary was sheathed in pure gold. Its walls shone with a heavenly radiance, adorned by cherubim, palms, and blooms that evoked a realm beyond the world. Yet the temple's core was a holier chamber called the Holy of Holies. There, the Ark of the Covenant, history's most cryptic relic, stood, representing God's living presence among his people. 7 relentless years passed, and at last the temple was complete. Yet the events on its dedication day were beyond anyone's guess. Solomon assembled the entire nation of Israel for a ceremony no one would forget. Standing by the altar, the king delivered a heartfelt prayer, imploring God to embrace this place as his abode on earth. Then, the unimaginable took place. Without warning, a resplendent cloud descended, encompassing the temple with a real, indescribable aura. What came next was even more startling. Flames rained from above onto the altar, devouring the offerings as the people watched in awe. That was the ultimate signal. The Lord embraced this temple as his dwelling. Everyone bowed in wonder. Right then, they stood in the presence of the true and living Creator. But the account doesn't conclude there. Solomon's temple would linger as a puzzle across the ages. Its hidden knowledge, downfall, and the lore around it resonate even now. Now be prepared, for the next structure we examine is even more awe-inspiring and demanding. Imagine a realm where all humans share a single tongue. No borders, no divisions. There are no barriers, no frontiers. All people coexist in total unity, committed to a single dream, building a tower so tall it touches the heavens. However, this drive, rather than uniting them with God, invoked his displeasure. And then the unthinkable occurred. All speech was thrown into chaos, halting the grand project for good. But what exactly was the Tower of Babel? Did it actually stand? How do historians and excavators interpret this tale? And most crucially, what timeless wisdom does it still offer? According to Scripture, after the vast flood, Noah's offspring dispersed across the globe and filled it again with life. For a while they stayed as one, sharing a single tongue, which gave them remarkable capability to coordinate without boundary, to progress unobstructed. Eventually, this group settled in the plain of Shinar, a region now known as ancient Mesopotamia. Yet they had more in mind than simply dwelling there. They sought to make a name for themselves. Using cutting-edge methods of the era, firing bricks and applying bitumen as cement, they began raising a colossal tower, an emblem of mankind's self-reliance. Let us make a name for ourselves so that we will not be scattered over the face of the earth. Genesis 11:4, they declared, they aimed to ascend into the sky. Beyond that, they intended to confront the Almighty. And so, the work continued. Their tower soared ever upward. Humanity's might appeared boundless. Until God stepped in, he witnessed their efforts and made a bold choice, confused their speech so they couldn't comprehend each other. Now picture the turmoil. A laborer requests bricks, but his partner thinks he wants water. Instantly, all coordination dissolved. The supervisor attempts to issue instructions, yet nobody grasps them. A previously synchronized mission descends into total disorder. Within seconds, the place is in absolute disarray. Their once flawless communication shattered. Unable to speak among themselves, the towering project was deserted. The workers scattered, settling around the globe and laying the foundations for today's varied peoples and societies. Yet the central query lingers. Did this occur in reality? Numerous academics suspect the Tower of Babel might mirror a ziggurat, a layered temple typical in Mesopotamia. The most renowned of these was Etemenanke, a vast shrine erected in Babylon for Marduk. Records show Etemenanke was dubbed the house that unites heaven and earth, a title intriguingly similar to the Bible's portrayal of Babel. Yet the central query lingers. Did this occur in reality? Numerous academics suspect the Tower of Babel might mirror a ziggurat, a layered temple typical in Mesopotamia. The most renowned of these was Etemenanke, a vast shrine erected in Babylon for Marduk. Records show Etemenanke was dubbed the house that unites heaven and earth, a title intriguingly similar to the Bible's portrayal of Babel. This tale is more than an account of how speech was divided. It can also serve as an enduring caution. To what extremes can our ambition drive us? Will our quest for might and renown push us into perils too large to grasp? Be prepared, because our next construction contains even more astonishing revelations. Picture an era marked by suffering and banishment. Your community is uprooted from its homeland, dragged away, and your holy temple, the center of your devotion, is smashed to dust. For most, that would sever their bond with the divine. Yet the Jewish people refused to abandon hope. Once they left Babylonian exile behind, they returned with a single vision: to raise the temple anew and reclaim their devotion. The Second Temple in Jerusalem was more than a structure. It symbolized renewal, optimism, and the essence of a whole nation. Yet how was this remarkable edifice created? What set it apart? And most importantly, why did it face such a heartbreaking downfall? 70 years passed in Babylon, until at last the Jews were permitted to go back to their homeland. Cyrus the Great of Persia not only sanctioned their journey, but also commanded the temple to be reconstructed and offered support. Yet as they set to work, they confronted a sobering truth. This new temple wouldn't match Solomon's in splendor. It was more modest, lacking the Ark of the Covenant and the golden glimmer of the former sanctuary. The older generation who recalled the original temple shed tears of sorrow. To them, this fresh edifice was a shadow of its past grandeur. But then came a startling development. The prophet Haggai announced a remarkable declaration. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than of the former. Haggai 2:9. But how could that be? How might a simpler temple surpass the splendor of Solomon's? Generations on, Herod the Great, a ruler enthralled by magnificence, chose to enlarge and beautify the Second Temple. A once humble place evolved into an ancient marvel. He doubled the temple's courtyard, forging an enormous sacred campus. Towering columns and vast corridors were added, stunning everyone who beheld them. Its surfaces were draped in gold and bright marble, causing the temple to dazzle in Jerusalem's sunlight. The outcome was a magnificent sight, overwhelming visitors with wonder. It became the spiritual core of Judaism, drawing throngs who offered prayers, sacrifices, and sought the Lord's presence. In this holy space, Jesus gave teachings, chased away vendors, and voiced a staggering forecast. Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. Matthew 24:2. That prediction later unfolded with terrible force. In 70 AD, Rome laid siege to Jerusalem, reacting to the initial Jewish uprising. After relentless conflict, they stormed the city and ignited the temple. Chroniclers say its gold liquefied in the blaze, seeping into the cracks, prompting soldiers to pull the temple apart for the metal. In the aftermath, only rubble was left. In 70 AD, Rome laid siege to Jerusalem, reacting to the initial Jewish uprising. After relentless conflict, they stormed the city and ignited the temple. Chroniclers say its gold liquefied in the blaze, seeping into the cracks, prompting soldiers to pull the temple apart for the metal. In the aftermath, only rubble was left. Jesus introduced a groundbreaking teaching. He said, "Destroy this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days." John 2:19. He did not merely refer to blocks and beams. He referred to his own being. The real temple wasn't a physical construction anymore. The divine would reside in human hearts. Reflect on that. If the Lord wishes to abide in you, are you ready to welcome him? Hold that thought. Thank you for staying with us to the end. May God watch over you, and until next time,